After many months of testing and countless hours out on the trails, the 2018 Bike of the Year test is now complete. I can reveal that the winner of Women's Trail Bike of the Year is the Juliana Joplin R. The Joplin R is the short travel 29er in the Juliana lineup, and it's built for trail riding, maybe a little bit towards the XC side of things, but generally speaking it's for riding and blasting through your local woodlands. However, this bike is way more capable than the suspension travel alone might suggest. Juliana is the sister company to Santa Cruz, and both companies share the unisex frames across both their ranges. So the Joplin is essentially a women's specific version of the Tall Boy, same frame, women's specific finishing kits, women's specific colours. Juliana's and Santa Cruz's are something of a boutique brand, so this isn't going to be a cheap bike. It comes in at £3,299 or $3,299. For that you're getting a Fox Rhythm 34 fork with 120mm of travel with a Fox Float Performance DPS shock which controls that 110mm of travel at the back. The 1x11 group set is a combination of SRAM NX combined with a GX cassette and a race face effect chain set. It's also fitted with SRAM level T brakes, aluminium finishing kit and a race face effect dropper seat post. Wheels are a combination of WTB rims on Novatec hubs, and up front you've got a grippy Maxxis Minion DHF Exo tyre for plenty of control, and at the back a faster rolling Crossmark 2. Listening to that spec list, you're probably thinking that doesn't sound like a great deal for the money. And in some ways you'd be right. If you were judging this bike purely on the spec list, it wouldn't score very highly. However, what you can't get from looking at the spec sheet or a piece of paper or a website is the ride feel, and this bike feels flipping fantastic. There are, of course, all the obvious benefits that you get from riding a 29er, so faster rolling, it keeps its momentum much better, it climbs fantastically well. There is a little bit of flex in those wheels though, so I did find myself pinging around a little bit on the trail. But overall the benefits outweigh the negatives there. Those 29er wheels really hold a fantastic line going into berms. So if you were sceptical about 29ers, this might be the bike to change your mind. The main selling point of the Juliana Joplin is the way that the suspension feels. The VPP technology that they use gives quite a unique feeling. The resulting ride is composed and stable and deceptively smooth and fast. So while you are getting feedback from those little bumps, it smooths out the overall passage of the bike. What that means in practice is that you find yourself going a hell of a lot faster than you think you're going. Now, composed and capable aren't words that you'd normally associate with having a blast on the trails. And while I prefer the smooth carvy feeling of the Joplin, that's not to say it isn't without excitement. The suspension has a beautifully sprung, taut feeling to it, so when you work it into the terrain, it really gives back about 10 times more than you put in. And it gave me more confidence to play with that because of that stable feeling. At 14.22 kilograms and with perhaps not the shiniest of spec on it, I didn't expect the Joplin to be particularly good at climbing, or certainly not one of the best, but in fact I actually got some of my fastest times on my test climb on this bike. One of the biggest surprises, however, was how good this bike is at technical descents. Again, 120mm bike, you're not really expecting it to do particularly well, but I and another tester took this bike down several downhill tracks, and while it was obviously not flying off massive jumps, it was able to handle it. It was surprisingly capable, calm and stable down some really quite technical terrain. I did wrestle with making this bike Bike of the Year because of the value question. But it won out because it was such a wonderful bike to ride. It's so smooth and capable and confident, but fun with it. I think it's the kind of bike that would encourage you to ride more often, to try things that you perhaps wouldn't have otherwise, to really get out there and explore and push yourself. When you're actually out riding the Joplin, You tend to forget that the spec is frankly pretty disappointing for this price point, because the bike itself is so much fun to ride. I think this is the trail bike that's going to suit 90% of riders 90% of the trails that they're going to be riding on. If I was going to spend my own money on getting a bike at around about this price point, I would much rather go for the Joplin with a disappointing spec than any other bike that has a more impressive spec. And that's why I'm choosing the Joplin as my 2018 Women's Trail Bike of the Year.